4 tickets to one football match, listed at $2.3 million each. When fans saw that number, the head of FIFA laughed. He promised that if anyone actually paid it, he'd hand them a hot dog himself. That was the official answer. Because the 2026 World Cup has a cheapest final ticket of $4,185, 7 times what Qatar charged. And for the first time, the fans are not just complaining, they're fighting back. This story doesn't start with the $2.3 million ticket. It starts with a single choice FIFA made quietly, months before anyone noticed. The choice to sell the World Cup the way airlines sell last-minute seats. It's called dynamic pricing. The price isn't fixed, it moves with demand. The more people want a ticket, the more it costs, by the second. This is the first World Cup ever to use it. For an airline, fine. For the biggest sporting event on earth, it meant something exact. It meant the price you saw when you joined the line was not the price you paid when you reached the front. Fans said they waited up to 8 hours in online lines, watched websites crash, and got to check out to find the cost had gone up. On the main site, top final seats were pushed toward $11,000. That's not a typo, by the way. $11,000 for one seat to one match. Now hold that number against the past. The cheapest final ticket anyone can buy for 2026 starts at $4,185. The most costly runs to $8,680. At the 2022 World Cup final in Qatar, the cheapest one like it was around $600. So the bottom price alone has gone up about 7 times in 4 years. Go back further and it gets harder to explain. At the 1994 World Cup, held in the same country, the United States, tickets ran from $25 to $475. The whole price range, top to bottom, sat below what 2026 charges for its cheapest seat to the final. FIFA had an answer ready for that too. It pointed to demand, and the demand was real, but demand doesn't write the rules. FIFA does. And this is where the case stops being about prices and starts being about how those prices were sold. Back in October, FIFA told the world that group stage tickets would start at $60. 60, a number made to grab headlines, and it did. Fans built plans around it. Then the main sale opened. The cheapest group stage tickets fans could really buy ran far higher and went up from there. The $60 tickets did exist, in a way. They went almost fully through national federations to their most loyal fans. For the normal fan refreshing the website, they were just a number on a press release. In Europe, there's a name for advertising a price that almost nobody can get. It's called bait advertising. And under European Union shopper law, it's against the law. That one fact is what turned a fan complaint into a legal problem. But to see how serious, you have to look at who controls the tickets in the first place. There is exactly one place to buy a World Cup ticket: FIFA. It owns the whole supply, sets every price, writes every rule. There is no rival, no other seller, no market pressure pulling prices back down. Money experts have a word for that, so do regulators: monopoly. And FIFA built one more layer on top of it: an official resale market. In the United States and Canada, the law lets fans resell tickets for more than face value. So FIFA opened a site for exactly that. A fan can buy a ticket and list it again for whatever they want. That's how 4 final tickets ended up listed near $2.3 million each. Here's the part that's easy to miss. On every resale on that official site, FIFA takes a 30% cut. So when a ticket is flipped for 10 times its value, FIFA earns on the markup. The same group that sets the first price makes money again when that price is pushed up on the way back around. Sit with the reason that creates. If you build the machine that sets the first price, and you also take a fee every time that price gets bid higher, you have no reason on earth to keep prices low. Every dollar the price goes up is a dollar you skim. The resale market wasn't a loophole fans found. It was a way to make money that FIFA built on purpose. If you're wondering how that's even legal, so is everyone else. And that question is the exact one that ended up in front of regulators. But hold that thought, because the resale market is only the second strangest thing about how these tickets were sold. The strangest was the price tag that changed while you were trying to pay. Remember the dynamic pricing. It didn't just set a number and walk away. It kept moving during live sales, which meant the cost could climb between the moment a fan added a ticket to their cart and the moment they hit confirm. Some seat types jumped about 25% in a single window, so a fan who planned carefully, who did everything right, could still watch the finish line move while they were standing on it. You'd think someone would have said something. Someone did. Several someones, in fact, and they didn't go to the press first. They went after the system. Now, if you're following the real cost to a real fan, here's what it looks like. To follow your national team from the first group match all the way to the final, through the official fan route, fans were quoted a low end of around $6,900, just for the tickets. Not flights across 3 countries, not hotels in 16 host cities, not food, tickets alone. That number is about 5 times what the same trip cost at Qatar 2022. For a fan who saved for 4 years, that's not a price increase, that's a locked door. And the door has a second lock. This tournament is spread across 3 countries and 16 cities, the most spread out World Cup ever held. Following your team doesn't mean one trip. It can mean flights between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, chasing games across a whole continent. For some fans, there was a third lock on top of the first 2, travel bans hitting fans from a number of countries playing in the Cup, which meant that even those who could afford a ticket weren't sure they'd be let in to use it. Stack it up. A ticket priced by a computer, a trip across 3 countries, and for some, a border that might not open. That's the full cost of watching the world's game in person in 2026. For a huge share of the people who love it most, the math simply stopped working. If this breakdown is helping so far, take a second and subscribe. I cover the money and the politics behind the 2026 World Cup every week, the parts the official broadcast won't touch. Now, here's where the fans stopped asking nicely. In England, fans wrote a letter to the Football Association. The point was blunt. If the Football Association and the other national associations whose fans pay for this whole sport just refuse to take their share of tickets, FIFA would have to think again. No tickets handed out, no organized fan crowd, no show. The fans were offering to hold back the one thing FIFA can't make, them. That letter seemed like a small thing at the time. It wasn't. It was the first sign that the people who fill the stadiums understood their own power. Football Supporters Europe, the group that speaks for fans across the continent, went public with the words that would define the whole fight. They called the pricing a monumental betrayal of the World Cup's tradition, not an annoyance, a betrayal. But this wasn't just about angry fans anymore. It was about to become a formal legal fight, with FIFA named as the one being accused. On March 24, 2026, Football Supporters Europe joined with the shopper rights group Euroconsumers and filed an 18-page complaint with the European Commission in Brussels. This is the moment the story changed. Up to here, it was fans against the group in charge, a fight about fairness with no referee. A formal complaint to the European Commission is different. It hands the question to a regulator with the power to dig in, to order quick action, and to fine. For the first time, FIFA wasn't just being criticized, it was being charged. The complaint listed 6 clear wrongs, and they're worth taking one at a time, because together they read less like a price fight and more like a playbook. 1. Prices higher than any World Cup before, and higher than FIFA's own earlier numbers. 2. The bait advertising, those $60 tickets waived in public and then handed almost fully to people inside the federations. 3. Dynamic pricing with no limit and nothing made clear. 4. Pressure tricks, the countdown clocks, and lines that push a fan to buy before they can think. 5. No clear answers on basic things, like where a fan was actually sitting, or how a refund would work if it worked at all. And 6. Holding the other 5 together, the monopoly itself. That last one is the heart of the whole case. Every other wrong only works because there's nowhere else to buy. The head of the legal team at Euroconsumers said it plainly. Football is something the whole world loves, and FIFA was treating it like a toy for the rich. The group asked the commission to step in fast, to freeze prices and stop the practices before the tournament began. The bait advertising charge matters more than it looks. In the European Union, advertising a price that almost no one can get isn't just unfair, it's against the law. So this wasn't fans calling something unfair and hoping someone agreed. It was fans pointing at a real law and saying, this might have crossed it. That's a much harder thing for FIFA to laugh off. People thought the ticket prices were the whole story. They were wrong. The complaint argued the prices were just the part you could see of a system built to squeeze out as much money as the law allows, and then a bit past that. So how did FIFA answer a formal legal complaint, a fan revolt, and a public fire? It put out a number. 5 million ticket requests in the first 24 hours of one sales round from more than 200 countries. FIFA called it proof. Proof that demand was huge, that the public had spoken, that the complaints were just noise. Its president said the hunger for tickets was like, in his words, 1,000 years of World Cups all at once. It was, to be fair, a very big number. It was also fully beside the point. Big demand for a monopoly's product is not a defense of the monopoly's prices. It's the very thing the pricing needs. The fuller the line, the higher dynamic pricing climbs. FIFA was calling the sign of the problem the cure. And then the talk moved somewhere FIFA could not control with a press release, to the federations themselves. In Germany, a vice president of the National Football Federation said in public that it was time to seriously consider and discuss a boycott. He compared the moment to the Olympic boycotts of the Cold War. The German Federation later said no to it, saying it believes sport brings people together. Even the former FIFA president spoke up from the side, telling fans to just stay away. A boycott didn't happen. Truth is, with the tournament days away, it was never going to. But the fact that it was talked about at all, inside a federation, on the record, tells you how far the trust had fallen. The people who supply the teams were saying out loud what the people who buy the tickets had been screaming for months. So here is where it stands. The 2026 World Cup opens on June 11th, across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. 48 teams, 104 matches, 16 cities, the biggest tournament in the sport's history, and it comes carrying a formal complaint to the European Commission, a fan base that tried to set up a boycott of its own tickets, and a price system that turned the world's game into something most of the world can't afford to watch in person. FIFA's president promised that if anyone really paid millions for a ticket, he'd bring them a hot dog himself. He said nothing about the millions of fans who saved for years and still couldn't get through the door. For them, there was no hot dog. There was a line, a crashing website, and a price that kept climbing while they watched. The tournament will go ahead, the stadiums will fill, but for the first time, a lot of the people watching at home won't be there because they couldn't afford to be. And they're not going to forget who decided that.